Yeah, today we are going to see about what is inbound REST integrations in ServiceNow. Okay, so let's see now. So, what is inbound REST integrations? So, inbound integration in ServiceNow is when data flows into ServiceNow from another system or source. This can include requests from other applications to get information on update records in ServiceNow. Yeah. In other words, we can say like inbound integration refers to the process of receiving information or data from external systems into ServiceNow. It's like ServiceNow acting as a receiver of data. When an inbound integration is set up, ServiceNow listens for data coming from another system or application. Means here in inbound integration we have two. Two means we have two objects which is ServiceNow and another system which we can call another as a source. Okay, so ServiceNow is a receiving thing, and another system, which is external system, is mm, some other system like we can tell some other integration tools, for example. So the inbound integration in the sense from external system which receiving into the ServiceNow. So that is called inbound integration. Means receiving data from external systems into ServiceNow, which means it's called inbound integration. And we can say ServiceNow acting as a receiver of data. Means sender is another system, and ServiceNow here acting as a receiver. Yeah. And in an inbound request, a third party application request an action through a ServiceNow API. Means we imagine like we have two objects, which is another system and ServiceNow, and we have named another system as third party application. So in between these, the connection, the actions will happen through ServiceNow APIs. Okay. So in now we can say like from external source we are getting a data into the service now. So this process will happen through an ServiceNow API. So in between these two, by using ServiceNow API, the data transfer is occurring between ServiceNow and third party tool. Yeah. Here the receiver is ServiceNow and the sender is third party tool or another source something else. We can take third party tool as example Postman, like the testing tools we can take. An example for ServiceNow APIs. Yeah, we can take some examples as table API, which is create, read, update, and delete records from a table. So this API is used to create, read, update, and delete records from a table. So another example is attachment API. This API is used to upload and query file attachments. Yeah. And another example is which we have taken is email API. So this email API is used to send and receive email messages using REST. Yeah. And these are some examples which I have taken. These three APIs. We have many more ServiceNow APIs. In that, I have taken only these three. Yeah. And let's go to next link. So this is external which we said right in previously. So this is an external application, and if we take this is ServiceNow instance API. So first here we have two objects, which is external application, and another one is ServiceNow instance API. So we have two. Now, actually, we already said right, ServiceNow is data receiver in inbound REST integrations. So the first process is it's sending request, means the external application is sending a sending a request to ServiceNow instance API. After that, it again sending the response. The ServiceNow is sending the response. So again, it's sending the response means external application is getting a response. See, here we have two objects, which is external application and ServiceNow instance API. First, the external application sends the request to ServiceNow instance API. After that, the ServiceNow instance API sends again the response to the external application. So this is the process, and the this process will happen by using the REST API, ServiceNow REST API. So we have saw some REST APIs, ServiceNow APIs examples previously like table API, attachment API, import set API. We have many, but we have discussed only three in before, right? And if we go to next, here key points about inbound REST integration. So we will see some key points here. So first we can see data flow. So the first key point is data flow means the data is coming into the service now from an external source. So we have discussed, right? Like data is coming into the service now from an external source. This is the data flow. Okay. Next mechanism. Coming to the inbound REST mechanism, external systems use REST API calls to send data to ServiceNow following specific endpoint and payload structures. So before we have saw one diagram. Yeah. So in between these two, external application and the ServiceNow API, ServiceNow, these actions will happen by using REST APIs, right? So here, external systems use REST API calls to send data to the ServiceNow following specific like endpoint and the payload structures. Yeah. And inbound REST integrations use cases are it's automatically updating ServiceNow records based on events in other systems and integrating data from external applications into ServiceNow for a verified view, triggering workflows in ServiceNow based on data receiving from external sources. Yeah. And if we see specific uses for inbound API in ServiceNow is so we can take specifically it's using in incident management, change management, user management, asset management, custom integrations. So these are the specific uses. There are many users, but I'm telling some specific uses here. So coming to incident management, you can see a network monitoring tool sending alerts to create new records in a service now when a server goes down. A customer support system pushing new customer tickets to ServiceNow as incidents. Means here it will send some alerts to create a new incidents when the server goes down. So there is some integrations like that in incident management. And coming to change management, a deployment tool notifying ServiceNow about a new application deployment to create a change request. So this is for change management. While if we see the user management, an HR system sending new employee data to ServiceNow to automatically create user accounts. So this is used in user management. And if you go to the asset management, so in asset management, what is a hardware inventory system updating asset details? Okay, in ServiceNow when changes occur. So like when changes occur, the hardware inventory system updating the assets details in ServiceNow. So when we go to final one, which is custom integrations, a custom application built outside ServiceNow, okay, sending data to update specific custom tables or trigger workflows. So this is the thing for custom integrations, okay. So let's see like ServiceNow as a web service provider. So actually we know that ServiceNow is a web service provider. So and we will see how it provides. So here you can see web service consumer. So this is the consumer, and here we can see web service provider. So the consumer will sends a request. Okay. So there the provider again sends a request here to the web service consumer. So web services makes it possible for applications to connect to other software applications over a network and exchange information between the provider and the consumer. So here we saw right how it applies, like consumer sends the request, again web service provider will again sends this request to the web service consumer. So this is between provider and consumer. Okay. So again we can see a web service consumer request information from a web service provider. Yeah, we saw right. A web service provider processes the request and returns a status code and a response body. When the response body is returned, the web service consumer extracts the information from the response body and takes action on the extracted data. Means here you can see like a web service consumer is sending a request, which we can say this is as REST API, REST response, and it goes to the web service provider. Again, it sends a response body to the web service consumer. The web service consumer extracts the information from that response body, which is in JSON format or some other, like it's based on, and it takes action and extracted data. So we will see in future videos how it will works. So this is like it sends a REST API from consumer to provider. Again, the provider processes the request which gets from consumer and it sends the response body in the format of JSON. Okay. And now the web service consumer, after getting the response body, it will extracts and take action on the based on extracted data. Okay, so this is the functionality of ServiceNow as a web service provider. And yeah, thank you.